Today, Sharon and I are interviewing the most marvellous Jean Picton.
I started in 1934, and my father was the time frame, putting it in the time frame. My father was a musician, so that put music in my life. He was a dance band musician.
You told me the other day something I didn't know.
What was that?
That before he met your mother, he was dating somebody rather famous.
Absolutely.
Tell us more.
Yeah, Vera Lynn.
Get away! Really?
Yeah. My father was a musician, you see, and he played in a dance band every Saturday, and she was the front singer.
Oh, music royalty.
Oh, absolutely.
And
royalty.
they went out on dates and things, but she was a couple of years older than him. And nothing sort of matured, and then eventually Mum came along, and then I came along, so... Yes, but in actual fact I did a Royal Command performance selling programmes, not very prestigious, but at least I was there, and Vera Lynn was top of the bill. I think that was in the 1970s. Yeah.
Did you get to speak to her?
No, she was backstage, and I spoke to the Queen though.
Oh.
Did you?
Yeah.
What'd she say to you?
You worked very hard this evening, didn't you? And I said, it was a pleasure, Mum.
Oh, that's magical, isn't it?
How lovely.
Yeah.
Ma'am, you had to say ma'am.
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 Ma'am as in spam rather than mom as in...
Yeah.
So, yes.
So music has been in your life
Music
for a long
was in my
time.
life, dancing, singing was in my life, and they took me to see a pantomime before the war in Ilford Hippodrome, which was bombed. No longer existed, it disappeared. And it was right up in the gallery, and I saw the pantomime of Cinderella. I made my mind up that's what I wanted to do, and I was all of 45 years old.
Oh, bless.
Can you imagine? 5 years old,
That's
I made my mind up.
Yeah.
And I had made my mind up, and that was it.
Yeah.
There was no
You
getting...
were going to be on the stage no matter what.
Everybody was in hysterics, including when it came to career choice at the end of schooling, which was at the end of the Second World War. Went through all the bits in the East End, and came out poorly educated, very poorly educated. They shut up the schools because of the bombing. Yeah. And I remember they said, right, now would you want to work in Woolworths? Or do you want to work as a junior in an office? I said, no, I want to go on the stage. No, seriously.
And you went, seriously? Seriously, that's what I'm going to do.
I said, there must be something else you'd like to do. So I like to travel. And guess what? They put me in a job in a shipping office in the City of London. In a shipping office typing bills of lading. Is that travelling? Well, I sent a whole ship full of goodness knows what to Rio when it should have gone to Panama. They decided I wasn't suitable for the job.
Okay.
Oops.
It was Holding Brothers or something. Big offices down Leadenhall Street in London, down by the bank.
Yeah.
So I did all that, still determined. Then I got a job with presses in the factory as I like drawing as well. Did a bit of drawing as a kiddie. So they put me in the drafts office where you sat and drew screws all day and nuts and bolts for blueprints.
Oh, okay.
And I used to do little valley drawings at the side, 5th and 4th and 2nd position, and they used to come and say, oh, she's at it again. So I didn't do very well in that one. So they moved me over to the personnel department because I wouldn't stop talking, and they thought that would be the best department to put me in, meet and greet people.
And you've never stopped since?
No, I know, I haven't got an off button, you see.
We don't want you to have an off button, do we?
Yeah, it's lovely, they forgot to give me an off button. So
how did you get onto the stage?
Right,
I'm
coming to that now.
Okay.
In the personnel department was a very strange, I said a dreadful thing to her, and I remember to this day what I said. The lady in charge was very snooty, and one of the assistant ladies, this was personnel dealing with people starting work in the big factory, and this is Plessy's in Ilford, big electronics factory, really. And I used to go from department to department with people with dockets and say, you're working here and more than fun me, and you're working there, is a terribly boring job. In the meantime, I'd gone to dancing classes and acting classes and did everything I possibly could. And the lady who was the assistant said, oh, a cousin of mine knows a cousin of somebody else who is a friend to somebody who knows a theatrical agent.
Ooh.
Always good to know somebody who
Ooh,
knows somebody.
connections, network.
Yes.
Luck
Yeah.
kicked in. And it was Virisco, Johnny and Virisco. He was quite well known. He had a London office in Leicester Square, right on the corner above, opposite Lyons Corner House in Leicester Square.
Oh, I know that, remember that, yes, yeah.
Yeah, and his wife was lovely. She'd worked as his partner on stage. Now they ran the agency. And it was arranged that I would go to meet Mrs. Risco, and she would have a chat to me and see whether I was... She said, I do feel that if you get somebody in the business who tells you you're not good enough, you can put this to rest.
Oh,
okay.
okay. So that was
Yes.
a warning across your bowels,
Okay.
wasn't it?
Yep. Don't forget, I'm untrained, and I've grown up in the East End, moved over to Barkiside during the war, so I literally, I can just about read and write, just about, but I'm not aware of what's around me. And I do go along for the appointment to Mrs. Risco, and she's very sweet. She said, she said, you're a good-looking girl. I was a good-looking girl.
You still are?
No, I really was pretty though in those days. I was a sort of Betty Hutton, whatever she was anyway. Betty Hutton stroke early Monroe look about me,
okay.
you know. And she said, can you do a bit of a routine for me? So I said, yes. So I put my tap shoes on, I did a few time steps. And she said, yes, I wouldn't like to sort of shoot you down in flames, but is there any chance you could really get some good dancing lessons, some tuition, really work and do as many shows as you can do? Get to a dancing school that does some shows. I said, right, okay. She didn't come and see me in the autumn. Yeah, right, okay. So I dutifully went home and went to every dancing class I could flipping find, spent every penny of my tiny wages on tap dancing classes and acting and God knows what. 1940s,
You've taken every dance lesson that you can.
Incredible, incredible. And I start doing shows, and I start getting solo bits and starting to sort of, I suppose, shine a little. I mean, I'm 15 rather, 15,
Okay.
so I'm not sort of a little tot, you know, and I know what I want to do, so I'm very focused. And I promptly go back to Mrs. Risco at the end of the summer. I ring her, make an appointment, and go and see her. And I walk in, and she said, oh, you look a bit different, because I kind of changed. I'm more for a little
Matured a little, yes.
Yeah, 6 months. And you have improved, there's no doubt about it, incredibly. You're doing extremely well. What I'm going to do, this is a funny story, it encapsulated as a small story.
Yeah.
We are now in 1948, 49, autumn 48. And
Just listen to that rain. We're out in Jean's studio and we can just hear the rain on the roof. Sorry
yes,
to interrupt
well,
you, my darling.
It is a tin roof.
That's fine, that's fine. Right, continue please.
Yes. I call it my tin can studio.
It's fine, it's fine.
But it is insulated, so it shouldn't
Yes.
have been that loud. Anyway, I go along and she says I have improved, Mrs. Risco. She said, but my husband is holding some auditions in Gerrard Street in London next week. Is there any possibility you could go along? Don't get me wrong, you are not going to be good enough to go in the show.
Okay.
They're fully professional dancers that are in the show with a lot of experience and talent. And she said, you will not, please don't think that I'm sending you along to get a job in my husband's show. She said, but I would like to send you along for the sheer experience and show you what you're up against.
Okay.
Which I thought was very thoughtful of her.
Yeah, absolutely.
She said, I'll tell him to expect you and you can go along. So I went along. And I was quite subdued, but very, very determined. I had no idea how much I needed to still learn. Because you don't. When you're 15, you think...
Of course,
You think the
yeah.
world's
Yes.
your oyster, don't you, Anyway, I go in and I do my piece, and Johnny Risco's there, and he said, you came via my wife, I gather. I said, yes. So he said, oh, well, not quite, we'll let you know, but don't, I don't think you're really up to speed yet, but thanks for coming and seeing us.
Yeah.
So I said, thanks for the opportunity, and off I went.
Yeah.
Now, in with all the girls waiting to go, they're all doing limbering up, they're putting their legs up and round the back of their necks. They're doing pirouettes like you've never seen, they're doing all complicated stretching things, and they're all caked in makeup and look gorgeous and tower above me. I don't know why, they just looked formidable. But in the corner in Gerrard Street, there was a little area with a tea room with a little wooden counter with a tea urn and a chap there selling teas.
Yeah.
And in the corner was a pile of fur. I thought it was an animal, but it wasn't. It was a lady in a fur coat. And I didn't sit too close because what with everybody saying, oh, if you go to London, there's trafficking, slavery, you might get kidnapped. And, what people tell you, the neighbours and everything, it's a terrible world out there, It's not. It wasn't a terrible world, it was a normal world. Anyway, this lovely lady was in the corner, and I sat down with my cup of tea before I was going to leave, and I didn't quite know what the next move was going to be, just to keep working like mad and try to do as many shows as I could. Yeah. And the lady said, did you get the job, love? I said, no, and I'm not surprised, I'm really possibly not up to speed. It was a #1 show. There was a group of comedians called the Crazy Gang.
Oh, yes.
I know
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it was the Crazy Gang show that I'd auditioned for.
Oh, right. Okay, yes, I do.
For the
Yeah.
Victoria Palace in London.
Wow.
Nothing, simple.
No, not a little off Broadway show. It was
No,
a real right up there. Yes.
Let's So no wonder it attracted top line girls, and I wasn't up to speed. And it was for the London show, and I thought, no, that's fine, fair enough. I said, no, I'm not really up to speed for that. So she said, can you dance? I said, oh yeah. I said, what can you do? I do tap, modern, ballet, reeled off. What I could manage. She said, I could give you a job.
Ooh.
See the
But
power
she said,
of
you
talking
need
to
to
people.
start straight away. Is that possible? Well, yes.
Yeah, I don't care
I've
what
got
it
the office
is.
job waiting a day
Yeah.
off. Again, they knew where I was going because I went back and told them, and they gave me the afternoon off to go and do this.
Yeah.
But they said, come back, sort of thing. Oh, no. Anyway, she said, right, and she took up a bag, flew with a bag. Out came the bag. There's a contract. It's a Robert Brothers circus.
Oh, yes.
Oh, gosh.
So I said, where do I sign? She said, don't you want to know how much it is? Oh, yeah, how much is it? She says, £2 a week. Oh, jolly good. I'll get £1.50 at places. Oh, five shillings more. And I signed the contract. She said, here's your train ticket. Can you be at Euston on Friday? This was Wednesday, I think, about Wednesday midweek.
Yep.
She said, could I catch a train Friday morning and go to Skipton in Yorkshire,
Yep.
to the winter quarters, as the girl I'm replacing has become very pregnant and needs to leave now.
Okay.
Wow.
and they want a girl.
Yeah.
I think anybody would have done at that stage, all due respect,
But you got it.
wow!
Serendipity, wasn't it?
Yes.
Just being in the right place at the right time.
When I said luck has played
Yeah.
a terrific part of my life, I really meant it. So that's how I became a dancer.
Fabulous.
What a story, eh?
Yeah. Yeah.
I keep saying this would make a
Just-
marvellous TV series, wouldn't it?
What do you think
Yes.
we're doing? On a little scale. On our tiny little scale, we're trying.
Absolutely. Anyway, I went home. In the meantime, unfortunately, my poor mum had died. She died of TB. From my first interview with Mrs. Risco to the second one, Mum had died and been buried. Because she said, "How's your mum?" And I said, "Oh, she died." She was quite upset, more upset than me, really.
Oh, bless.
Oh.
Well, that was nice that she remembered her.
Yes.
When I first went, her mum was in hospital.
Right.
But really on her last legs. And as a child, she'd been in and out of sanatoriums, so I knew, let's say, poor old mum she was a victim of TB, which of course if she'd lived a bit longer and contacted it a bit later, she would have survived. But in
Yeah, it's sad,
1940 she
isn't it?
didn't.
You didn't know.
So anyway, my dad was doing his dance band. I was working at the Plesses, but he was out midweek dance band, Saturday and Sunday dance band, and there's little me. You know, no life at all, no brothers, no siblings, no sisters, no nothing. So I said to him, I went home and I said, "I've got a job." He said, "What?" I said, "I've got a job." He says, "You can't have." I said, "I've got a job." "Doing what?" "Scrubbing the floor." I said, "No, I'm going to be a dancer."
Dancer.
Oh,
Yeah.
how brilliant.
Everybody fell out laughing when I said it.
What a bunch of meanies.
Oh.
It was like Funny Girl, you know, Barbara Streisand in Funny
Yeah.
Girl. Everybody thought, "Ah," you know. Anyway, he said, "I don't like the idea of this. Is she qualified? I mean, is she genuine? Is she kosher? Is she..." This lady, her name was Marie Duval. Marie Duval.
Very stagey.
Dancers.
Very,
Yes.
very glam.
Yeah.
His shaggy old fur coat, it looked mildewy, it looked like it really had it. It had a life of its own walking around.
Oh, no,
inside the fur coat. And he said, I'm a bit worried. I said, "Well, here's my contract." And at the bottom was a logo and a telephone number and thing. And he phoned her. I said, "Well, phone her and just check." And she said that, oh no, it was no telephone number. There was nothing on the contract to contact her because her office was at the side of the tea urn. Oh, marvellous. I went from the West End Crazy Gang audition down to the fur coat next to the tea urn.
A teaspoon on the left.
So, my dad went up the next day, the Thursday, took a day off and went all the way up to Gerrard Street, went down into Gerrard Street's rehearsal rooms, and it was underground, the rehearsal room, so that didn't help, very musty and mildew, you know. She was there, propped up against the urn, that's what, you know. And he introduced himself, and apparently she convinced him she was kosher.
Okay.
And he came back and he said, apparently she's genuine. Yay! And he said, "What would you say if I said don't go?" I said, "I go anyway." So he said, "Oh."
Off you go then.
Off your pop.
He said, "Well, as long as you promised to always phone and reverse charges if you're in trouble."
Oh, brilliant.
So I
Yeah.
said, "Yeah, I'll do that." And the next day he came with me early in the morning with a battered old case, and I got on a train to Skipton. All on my
And that
own.
was the
So
start.
that was the start.
Autumn, arrived in Skipton, pitch black. Got out the train and it was very undeveloped in those days. It was a tiny little place, and I stood there and it was chucking it down with rain and nobody was there to meet me. I was told somebody would meet me, and after an hour of standing there, I thought,
Something's gone wrong here. Yeah.
light came up over the road and disappeared. It was an old battered open back lorry. "You for the circus?" "Yes." "Put your case in the back." "Okay." Back in, woof. smell of animals.
Oh, lovely. Oh, lovely.
No words, nothing. I thought, oh my God, where am I going? End up, after half an hour, we turned into a field, torrential rain, into a field, all caravans, dim lights. I'm setting the scene because it's quite interesting. And then he says, go over there and knock on the door, that's the governor's caravan. They'll tell you what to do. So I got the gate, knock, knock, I'm a new dancer. Oh, hold on a minute, I'll take you over to your caravan. They put a coat on and took me over to the caravan. Inside were 5 other girls.
Oh, gosh. So
In a
it's snug.
caravan, paraffin heater. Head girl said, oh, you're the new dancer. In you come, what's your name? Winky. That's a stupid name. Okay. So I said, I'm starving by now. Come up from London to Skipton. In those days it took hours in a steam train. She said, have you eaten? I said, no. She said, don't worry, the wire walker's wife cooks our supper for us. So there was a knock on the door, bonk bonk, and out there she's got an rain mac and a tray with 6 beans on toast and 6 cups of tea on a big tray, all slopping around and pouring with rain, diluting it. And they pass it in and we all get a plate of baked beans with a bit of soggy toast, a cup of tea. I eat that and the head girl says, we won't, because it's late now, it's getting late. Everything shuts down about 10 o'clock on the circus because they get up early, animals wake up early. And they said, you can have that top bunk at the end. It was dark and musty and I got up on the top bunk and I could hear animals going and sort of noises and creaks and I sat on the top bunk and I said, I'm in show business.
Oh, how
that's
perfect.
brilliant.
How perfect. And you've been in show business ever since. You're a
Absolutely.
star.
I had to tell you that story because that rather sets how I started. And then I was very
love
lucky. I worked in the circus, I trained to go on the trapeze. I loved it, they didn't want to lose me, but I wanted to go on the stage. And by Christmas I put my notice in and I left to join a pantomime with Miss Maria Duval.
Oh.
Put me
same
in a
lady.
#1 pantomime in Preston,
Okay.
Robinson Crusoe. 30 girl chorus. 30.
Oh, that's a lot, isn't it?
I was at the back. I was in the 3rd row at the back.
But you were in it.
After the circus, we went on tour, did a variety tour, and then she put me in a show. And how about this for concluding my story, which I think is rather fun? Without an audition, without any problem at all, they were doing a touring version of a West End show and she got the contract. I was one of the girls and it was the Crazy Gang touring show.
Oh, how bizarre. So you'd come full circle.
Perfect.
Johnny Risco walked past me at rehearsals and did a double take and said, what the hell are you doing here?
Oh.
I said, I work for Mario DeVere. He said, good God. But apparently I fitted in. He didn't even question it. Once we did the dress rehearsal and everything, it was,
You were right.
I was okay, I was on my way.
Yeah.
You were
So
right.
I
for the
was a
show.
dancer for many years. I then went into a variety act and worked with the Billy Cotton Band show. Do you remember the
Oh,
Billy
yes,
Cotton
I do. My mum and dad used to watch them on the telly. Yes, I do.
They used to leave every Saturday night to go and do the telly on Sunday.
He was
And
the one who did the Heidi. What did he do? He made a noise at the beginning of the show or the end of it, didn't he? What did he used to do? He used to shout something.
He was very coarse, quite sort of common. I don't think he actually made a noise at the beginning, but
He used to
shout the name of the show.
Yes,
didn't
he did, didn't he? That's right.
I'm trying to think what it
I
was.
knew he either saw the programme out with something or in with something.
And Jane, who had the act, was a glamorous act, and she dressed 2 models in bales of cloth on stage, quick as lightning,
Okay.
of which I was one, and I danced while she dressed me as a ballerina. And she had
Oh.
pins in the pad here, and she'd take a bolt of cloth and throw it round, and I'd end up in a wonderful outfit, and then you take a bow, you know. It was elegant. It was an elegant
Oh, lovely.
variety act.
Yeah.
She got a thyroid problem and went into hospital, couldn't work. You had to work. You worked to survive in those days. And the agent that booked us she said to the agent, "Could you find a job for my my
Dancers.
dancer girl, you know, for Jean, the Winky?" Because she knew me as Winky, of course. Then, yeah, Winky. And he said, "Well, I've got Edwin Hicks is putting on panto." And I joined Edwin, and I did a whole series of pantos for him as playing Principal Girl.
Yeah.
So I'm going up. And then I decided what to do. We went into a couple of reviews. Jane's health was poor. And then there was a spat of no work again. I thought, oh, what the heck, I've got to do something. So in the stage every week was the Windmill Theatre in London.
Yeah.
Dancers wanted, telephone for an audition. Every week it was in, and people used to say, oh, well, you have to do fan dances and new posing, and I'd never done anything like that. I'd have been a dancer. Very proud of the fact that I was quite a good performer by now.
Yeah.
We are now in the 50s, early 1950s.
Okay.
And 1954. And I went up to the theatre, I telephoned, and they said, come along Monday. We see people on a Monday sometimes. So I went to the stage door of the Windmill Theatre, just off Piccadilly, and in I went. I looked like a Marilyn Monroe lookalike, deliberately.
Yeah.
Nipped in little suit, you know, high heels, hair blonde. In I went, up the stairs, at Mattel's office. I went in and she said, how old are you? I said, I'm 20 now. You know, I've gone into 20. So she said, you're too old.
Oh, what?
For one of our girls, they usually start about 16 with us. They took young girls from dancing school and beautiful, beautiful girls. It was like the Folie Bergère, but a very tamed down British version. And I went, right, not to worry. And the phone went, luck again.
Yeah.
Phone went.
Serendipity.
She said, can you wait outside, please? Yes, certainly. Went outside, sat down, and a lady came by, quite stout. And she said, hi, what are you doing? You waiting to see Amadale? I said, well, I was hoping for a job, but she says, I'm too old. She said, too old? Stand up, let's have a look at you. No, not. How old are you? I said, I'm 20, coming up to 21. She said, can you dance? I said, yes. She said, can you do the splits? I said, sort of. And she said, what have you done? I explained I'd done all the shows and the reviews and everything. She went, oh. And she went into Amatel's office, by which time she'd finished a phone call, I gather. And I sat outside waiting to be summoned, so I didn't go back in yet. And then she came out, the lady I was talking to, and said, good luck. I said, looks like I might need it, you know. And Amatel walked out with a contract in hand. She said, Sheila Van Damme likes you, you better sign this.
Oh, wow.
Now, Sheila Van Damme was very famous in her day. Some of the older people that might be watching this will know she was a racing driver star.
Oh, crikey.
She was. She won the Mons and all the...
Oh, really?
Oh, yes. She was Van Damme's daughter.
Okay.
Sheila Van Damme. And she later, while I was still there, she took over from Van Damme to run it. She ran it for quite a few years.
Oh, wow.
But nice lady, you know.
And you got the job.
Job.
Perfect.
And Amatel never really liked me much after that.
Because she didn't want
Well,
you initially.
I suppose somebody had overridden her, hadn't they?
Told her she had to
Yes.
do something. It's
Yeah.
always the way, isn't
And
it?
it was even worse, really. Amatel was learning to drive and she was flirting outrageously with one of the boy dancers and kept asking him to take her out for driving lessons, and I ended up marrying him.
Nice one.
So the dancing career was fine. Got married, had 2 kids, went into TV, did TV commercials, worked.
Hang on a sec. Just time, isn't it?
Right.
Okay.
So my dancing career progressed, as I say, left the Windmill to have children, got married and had children, and after much ado did TV commercials. I worked in TV quite a bit. And then I did cabaret act because that's what I wanted. I was an entertainer. I'm probably not the best dancer in the world. No, I wasn't the best dancer in the world. But I was a blooming good performer.
Oh, can we get you on Strictly now?
Yeah.
Would you do Strictly? Oh wow, yeah, we got to do that.
Oh my goodness, could you imagine?
Maybe just for a Christmas special or something. We don't want to wear you out.
Well, I'm at the ripe old age of 88,
Okay.
up to 89, which is very close to 90 now. I don't know if I've got the end, I don't have got the wind.
Oh, bless you.
Anyway, as I say, I did the cabaret act and worked extensively in London and home counties, worked at all the big venues doing cabaret, all the big dinner dances, Masonic do's, the cabaret act. Then was cherry-picked to go to America and did a stint in American television. Did all right, did okay, and then split from my husband, met a comedian who was very funny and very entertaining, but my life changed and the kids were growing up that way, and I kind of joined him and we started doing working men's clubs. He was a comic.
Right.
And I did about 5-6 years touring the clubs and putting on pantomimes around the working men's clubs, which was quite a big business at one time. Then Butlins cottoned on what we were doing, and I went to see Frank Mansell at Butlins and sold him the idea that I could fill his repertory theatres with a small company of young adult actors as a repertory company to entertain the children with plays and pantomimes and shows. And I did that for, I parted from the boyfriend and he went off with a girl that was, I think she was out of her nappies, but just about. She's a good looking girl.
Let's move on from that one, I think.
But I then got the contract and I worked for Butlins for 10 years, putting all the entertainment in. So art hadn't appeared yet, had it?
Not yet, not at all, not at all.
Gosh, I don't know how you found time for art.
Well, I didn't
Not
until
yet.
then. I made costumes, stage costumes.
Oh, lovely.
And I produced and directed pantomimes, and I lit the shows, I directed them, produced them, lit them, all what you put together, what juxtaposes against to look good, lighting.
Yeah.
So I wasn't alien to the world of colour.
Yeah.
And I put on a big show called, it was a Welsh cartoon series that I bought, and my kids worked with me in the company, and it was quite a big show and it cost a lot of money and I didn't handle it correctly. It was Super Ted.
Oh, yeah.
Super Ted show. I had all the UK and European rights to Super Ted.
Well, I'll be
stage
sure.
shows. Yeah. So really, I've had a good innings, haven't I?
You jolly well have, my darling.
I haven't started yet on the art yet.
Gosh.
So then
Told you she
that
was interesting,
show,
didn't I?
that show was, though I say so myself, absolutely brilliant. Loved it, but it went bust. And I was sitting there twiddling my thumbs. I went and met Ryan, who was an accountant, and he offered me sanctuary, as it were, in the nicest possible way. Bless him, he'd lost his wife, and we were now in our mid-50s. And I'm getting on for 60 now, and I thought, well, I wasn't till I'm spare, what shall I do? And I went and got a job at the BBC as head of wardrobe at Ealing.
Okay. Yeah.
I was head of wardrobe at Ealing for 2 years, which was great, working with all the big stars.
Yeah.
And while I was there, I went to evening classes. Well, I started when I went bankrupt. I had nothing to do. And you could go to evening classes for tuppence halfpenny. I don't know if they still do them. at the local colleges. So they do night
Don't
classes.
get them for top of the tape, Neil, I'll tell you that much.
But it was very, very reasonable. It really was. It was something like it was like £10 for the 14 weeks.
Yeah.
Which, all right, £10 was a wage then. Equivalent to, I suppose, 250 quid now, I suppose.
Yeah, but still for a whole. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And sort of put a paintbrush in my hand and said, "This is watercolour." Duh. Ooh, this is fun. Met, I'm still at the BBC, then I left the BBC because I met a girlfriend who said, "I'm going to do a foundation course
Yes, yeah.
at Watford."
Yep.
Yes,
At
yeah.
Watford. And again, for £10 a year, you could do a foundation course, part-time, over 2 years.
Perfect.
And away I went, and I enjoyed every moment of it. Came out pretty well at a good mark, you know. And said to Brian, they're all putting portfolios together to go to university. Would you mind if I do? We had got married by then, and were having quite a nice time. And he said, "Well, provided you go part-time, otherwise I won't see you," which was wrong, because part-time students at university put more time in than anybody, would you believe?
Okay, yes, I
Young
believe.
students do a couple of lectures, 1 day work, and then go to the bar, student bar.
Yeah.
Part-timers only get the chance to go to a couple of lectures, and then you have to catch up, so you're working at home continuously. Anyway, I did, and I entered, did a portfolio, and got in at Hertfordshire University. But I was, 64?
When I'm 64.
Gosh, life starts at 64
So
again.
anybody watching who's thinking of doing it around that age, thinking of doing a bit of painting, piece of cake, go for it.
That's good
Because
advice.
it's amazing. I have had 25 years of an art career since all this.
Yeah.
Would you believe?
Yeah.
Even I cannot believe I'm still standing upright.
Oh. You've got too much life in you.
Well, the thing was, I was accepted into Hertfordshire, and I did a 5-year BA honours, which was with a dissertation, and it was all modern art, and I absolutely adored every moment of it. And I would highly recommend anybody that could possibly afford to go.
Yeah.
Go. It's wonderful. Oh, you mix all the students with split jeans and peace man. It's lovely in uni, it really is. And don't forget, I left school at 15,
Yes.
just barely reading and writing.
Yes.
So that is my pre-art. Then I came out with a degree, a tutu, a Desmond.
I do think of you as a tutu because you do wear them. Yes. Tell me about your degree show, because I've heard things about what you'd put together in your
Well,
just
what
finished
happened
degree
was,
show.
would you believe, I was always convinced I was a painter. And in fact, I've earned my living for the last 20 years painting professionally and enjoyed every minute of it. But when I got to university, one of the tutors looked at me and he said, "You don't have to do painting, you know. We could, if you want to concentrate on painting, work and take you down the concept of painting. Or you can go down something that you choose to go down for concept for your final show. It's conceptual art, you see. Think of your Tracy Emin's and your, you know. And I said, well, I used to make stage costumes that were, you know, out of this, some of them were out of this world. They were all pantomime stuff, larger than life.
Yeah.
Very show busy and glamorous.
Yeah.
And you think of, you know, Butlin shows, and I used to make all the costumes. And he said, well, we always say, focus on something you know. Focus on something you know. So I ended up and I made 15 very, very big coats with great big sleeves, great big collars, great big trains, and they were all made with lining and padding, and then on the outside were all different colours, and each coat represented landfill disasters. That what we put in landfill.
Okay.
I made a whole
It's
coat
different.
out of new nappies.
Okay.
It looked fabulous. It looked like the biggest puffer coat you've ever seen. I made a whole coat out of baby feeding beakers and dummies. You know, I made a whole coat out of Actimel bottles and bin liner frills.
Oh gosh.
And these coats were huge, really huge. Men wore them.
Yeah.
They were big. And Brian made me wooden stands for them to go on for the show. And then I covered tables and chairs. I had 3 big mirrors which were all ruched and covered in bin liner ruching. It was a good show. And it cottoned on because it was visual, and I called it the changing room. You look in the mirror and change what you're doing with your rubbish.
Yes,
Concept.
yes.
And it did. And I'm trying to think of the artist that Craig, the artist, I can't remember his Christian name, Craig, the artist, who collected rubbish out the Thames and did Britain from the North
Okay.
on the wall, and it went from the north down to the south away. It was all done with rubbish. The spectrum, which he collected rubbish out the Thames and did a huge gauge spectrum of plastic in the most wonderful colour spectrums of the rainbow going back. So he did rubbish as a art form, and I used him for my dissertation, and I used the coats, and I got a 2-2.
Well done, you.
Interesting, isn't it?
Bravo. Yes.
But you come out of
Inspiring.
university and you sit there with your coats all around you. I mean, I was on Woman's Hour, I was interviewed for the BBC, I was in every newspaper and local newspaper did an article on me. I happened to mention I'd been a Windmill girl to the publicity man at the college as he came round. He said, "Why did you make these coats? I've heard about them." Because everyone was putting them on and walking around and talking about them. And I said, "Well, I used to make stage costumes." Stage? Well, I was in the theatre for 50 years and I was a Windmill girl, you know, in my day. I used to dance with nothing on but just fans. Well, that was it. I was in this prospectus.
Publicity got, yeah.
You know, publicity, but I still sat there and I hadn't sold a painting. I've never painted, I hadn't painted hardly any painting. And I sat there and one of the girls said to me, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "It's a bit sad. I'm not going to paint, just put paintings under the bed. Be like Princess and the Pea, you know."
Yeah.
So she said, "Oh, that's very pessimistic for you." I said, "No, let's be fair. My pedigree's not central London. Age was against me. I'm nearly 70.
So when you got your degree, by the time you got your degree, you were just about 70.
I was 68. So, I mean, it's, you know, and I don't have any illusions of grandeur that I'm going to be brilliant. It's very hard work out. It's difficult out there. It's difficult to sell one painting.
It is, that's true.
So what got you on the road? Because if you'd hardly done any painting, what triggered you? What made you do that?
A girlfriend, Elaine, who went through college with me, slightly before that, I'll just click back a step. One of the other girls, who was a year ahead of us, Lynn, went to Dixwell Arts Trust.
Okay.
And she was leaving, and her Dixwell Arts supplied some studios for artists. Somebody had left some money as a trust many years ago in 1945 or something. And a committee ran it, and there were cheap studio space, and you got it for, I think that was about £10 a month.
Yeah, it was only for a short term, was it? Like a couple of years or something?
You had a 2-year, 3-year limit, yes, and it was to help emerging artists.
Okay.
And I went along to the auditions, said to them, "I'm not emerging, I'm submerged, but would you consider me?" Because I mean, I'm a grandma. And it was for young emerging artists to help them on their way. And that's what actually was the catalyst that did it. Because I was in a studio with 6 other artists that were painting. They paid for exhibitions for us, of which there was a couple of London exhibitions included in that, which was, it was called Fresh Art, and it was at Islington Design Centre.
Yeah.
And we paid £100 contribution of 5 of us to have a stand at one of the big art exhibitions, and they paid the difference, because it was about £5,000 a stand even then.
Gosh, yeah, that's a lot of money.
And it was the twister, because not that one, I sold at that one, because the chap that curated it didn't like what I did. He was a friend, he was an amateur artist, ex-retired art teacher, and he thought I was too much.
You can never have too much of you, Jane.
Well, he did. I'll tell you what he did to me. How about this? The stand was like petitions, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And he put everybody up, and he put Lil at the front with all her shoes she was doing
Yeah, I
then.
remember that, yeah.
Because you knew
Well,
me
this is
very
how
well.
I know you, but we'll
That's
come on to
right,
that.
yeah. Anyway, and I came along and I was doing vegetables. Great big chunky lumpy oiled vegetables, and they were great fun. And they were very big, and they didn't mean very much, but they were great for somebody's kitchen.
Yeah.
And I brought me 2, well, I was only allowed 2 paintings. This bloke only allowed me 2 paintings. Some of his favourites had more space.
Always the way, always the way.
Exactly, yes.
And I brought me 2 paintings, and he went, oh, right, okay. Honestly, he put me at the back, behind, facing a brick wall.
Oh, lovely. What a charmer.
No light, nobody walked round the back. He said, we haven't got space at the front for you.
Oh, thank you very much, sir.
And I thought, life can be a bit of a bitch, but never mind. At least I'm here, I can put it on my CV.
Yes, yeah.
You know, to have a London exhibition is...
Yes.
That's
Good.
kudos.
Yeah.
Good.
And an Irish girl, oh, she was lovely. She said, what the fuck are you doing round there? I said, that's where he's put me. She said, oh, he didn't know he's on. She was mumbling away. She sold both her paintings, or, you know, and it was the last day. It was Friday night opening, Saturday and Sunday till the afternoon, and she sold her paintings Sunday morning. She was right in the middle of it. It was lovely. She was a lovely painter, and she said, "I'm not having this." And she went out the school door. She lifted my 2 paintings, came and put them in her place.
Oh, brilliant.
Took her
So you were in
paintings.
the middle at the front.
Sold them within 10 minutes.
Excellent.
The bloke that did the curator, I can't even remember his name.
Excellent.
He was
Good.
so unimportant to
So
me.
Yes,
we don't
yeah.
need to know his
No.
name.
When he spoke to Sheila, you remember Sheila Wolfe?
I know the name, but I don't know
Yeah,
if
she
I
was
ever
one
knew
of our
her.
clique from the
Yeah.
college, who was linked to the trust.
Yeah.
She was part of the committee on the trust. She was talking to the trust afterwards because they said, how did the art go at Islington? And she stood up and said, oh, it went very well, like a committee, you see. It went very, very well. Many of our artists sold. They said, oh, which one sold? And I think the Irish girl was Denise, and I can't remember. There was a whole little collection of people there. And Jean Picton, and this bloke went, Jean Picton sold.
When I put her work round the back out,
She
was
told me
like,
about it afterwards. She said, you went white. I said, how did that happen? What do I know about art? I sat down and I went,
I bet you did too.
You see, it doesn't matter how old you are, you're still a kid inside.
You
Oh,
still
absolutely.
Bloody playground.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And it's still the playground.
Yeah, it still is.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We're both there, aren't we?
Yes.
We both get
I'm
that.
still 18 in here.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
it just shows you, doesn't
Yes.
it? But having said that, they then did another very good show at Olympia. And they paid for us to have a stand at Olympia. And I had 2 or 3 paintings, 3 or 4 paintings in. And I had since got stuck on the vegetables and didn't know quite what to do. And we had used aqueous dispersant at college,
Yeah.
which was a suspended pigment in water form. They
Okay.
don't make it anymore. I wish they do, because I loved it. It did 3/4 of the work for you.
Mm.
You put a blob down and went, and it went, shoot.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, and didn't
Sounds
lose
like
any
fun.
pigment. The Olympia show, I would say, and Dixwell Arts, that was the turning point of art becoming important in my life and
Work
my
and
career.
business, yeah.
And before the exhibition, I was very worried, and I said to my girlfriend Elaine, oh, I don't know what to do for this exhibition. I don't really want to put the vegetables in. They take ages to dry, you know, the linseed, and it's sort of old hat, and you know, and I didn't feel it was contemporary. And she said, why don't you do flowers? And I went, ugh. I don't do flower arranging. I don't do gardening. I don't have flowers in pots in my house. What do I want to paint flowers for? And she said, you've got to paint something.
Yes. Yeah.
Outside,
wrong.
you know, she really
Yeah.
did, you know, and I went, you're right. So I came up with an idea of this aqueous dispersant paint and canvas, and you were supposed to mix it with glue, PVA glue, to make acrylic paint.
Okay.
And I got it, and I used it neat. And if you let it dry, it dried unstable, in as much as it was like chalky pastel,
Right.
because it was powder. And
Okay.
once the water dispersed and dried, then the pigment was powder form. And if you didn't have a fixative, it's gone. You know what? You know. So I came up with an idea of slushing the water down, using the poppy image.
Yeah.
For no other reason than red is a good colour to get tonal values in. Not yellow, don't use yellow for tonal values.
No.
Avoid yellow. If somebody says they want a daisy, talk them into a poppy. Because you just can't get any tonal values.
No. Most difficult.
And to fix it, didn't have resin in those days, so I fixed it with copious amounts of varnish.
I think my best.
Yeah, I fixed the paint, unstable paint, with copious levels of varnish. And it kind of worked on a white background. Now, I did these poppy things. I did add I had 5 colours. I worked with 5 prime colours, purple, red, yellow, blue, had some white, and used some black ink for sort of stable darks. So it wasn't a wide, my red was magenta, teal, yellow, and ultramarine, you know, the sort of main Mediterranean colours. So I kept to those colours, and I did floors, big gloopy things on white, and varnished them.
And this is about when I met you, wasn't it? Because you had just started doing these when I met you.
I had, yes, just started putting them together.
Because Lynn, who you had been in Dixwell with, and I set up a gallery in Hertfordshire.
Absolutely.
And Lynn brought you in because she knew you through Dixwell,
Oh,
and
I
that's
see.
how we all met.
That's how we met, yes. And Lynn said to me, will you come and do a demonstration? Duh. You really want me to do a demonstration? She said, yes, I'd like to call it Watercolor with Attitude. Because it was this...
It was throwing paint about, basically.
It was lovely.
Great fun.
Around. And you put a blob, you paint with water where you want it to go. Then you tap it in, and it spread, and it gave tonal values, and a little bit more gave you a bit more tone. But it didn't go beyond the perimeter of the water.
Okay, I've got you.
It stayed.
Yes, yeah.
It kind of had a skin.
Yes.
And therefore, providing the quantity of water was limited and controlled, you could control your shape. Poppies were a good shape to control. Rhododendrons, and what was the blue things that go up and down?
Delphiniums?
See, I don't know about flowers.
Yes.
Yeah, delphiniums.
Blue things that go up and down.
And I started using...
I've seen the paintings, I knew what she was talking about.
People say to me, oh, I love your roses. I go, oh yes, and my nose goes like that. I don't copy anything. I don't copy a thing. I don't have flowers in front of me. So consequently, these worked, and Lynn took a couple of paintings.
We put them up in the gallery.
We went on holiday, and I went into a gallery in Menorca, and Hannah took a couple of paintings. She phoned me and said, I've sold them. I went, you're joking. And then Lynn said, oh, by the way, we've sold those. I went, what?
And that was, it just snowballed from there, didn't
Not quite. It was okay, and I was ever so pleased, and I came and did the dem, and I enjoyed doing the dem, and decided that all my performing skills kicked in, that I was able to entertain while I demonstrate.
And we say this, that all our demonstrations are when we are up on stage in front of an art group. It is a performance.
It is a performance, there's no doubt about it. And of course my performing values, I was using them again and enjoying myself thoroughly, but not selling very many. On the exhibition at Olympia, it was called On the Wall. And it didn't have a huge footfall. The people that organised it were not madly efficient, but they did a reasonable job, and we had a reasonable footfall for the weekend. But what did happen, I was picked up by about 5 galleries.
Oh, lovely, yes.
Which I had no idea what I was letting myself in for. You know, it absolutely didn't dawn on me. One was up in Yorkshire, one was down in Berkshire. They were all over the place. And people that own galleries went round the exhibition and found a new artist, you see. And they liked the bright colours, and it was new and different. And I remember one lady had a gallery in West London. She said, oh, you were a pain in the behind. I said, oh no, I'm ever so good. I said, you know, I'm really good. If you take my painting, I don't fuss. She said, oh, I'll give you a try. You know, I stayed with her for years. Then Stark Gallery was part of that setup as well, and Stark said, we'll show your work as long as it sells, but it's got a shelf life. And once it stops selling, we won't. I said, oh, that's good. I've sold right up until the pandemic with Stark Gallery.
That's interesting, isn't it?
You know, isn't it? Yeah. But the thing is, I change and move. But what the big catalyst of the whole thing that really went from enjoying painting and selling a few to becoming a selling artist was on the Sunday. I was a bit late and I nearly missed my train to go to Olympia, and there's a train link from Watford through to Olympia.
Okay.
Above train. And I ran hell for leather from the car park and literally by the skin of my teeth jumped on the train as it was moving, sat down and started to breathe again, going
Don't knock everything over, Jean.
There was a chap sitting opposite me, very elegant gentleman. He was quite dishy actually. And he said, are you all right? I said, I will be in a minute. Oh, that's better. Oh, I didn't get a ticket. He said, I think you can buy a ticket from the ticket collector. I said, oh, I hope so. And the ticket collector came and tickets. I said, I'm so sorry, it was random. I bought the ticket and everything. Olympia, and he got his ticket out and I said, oh, are you going to Olympia? He said, yes. I said, are you an artist? He said, no, I'm press.
Ooh.
Bing!
Another fortuitous moment.
Yeah.
So I said, oh. He said, I'm editor of, it's no longer existent, it was a magazine, quite a predominant magazine that was sold to galleries and framers.
Oh, okay.
It was their trade magazine.
Ooh, good one.
He started saying to me, well, what do you paint? I said, oh, you'll never believe it, I paint flowers. And he said, oh, I'll come round and have a look. what stand are you on? And he took out that and he did it. And I said, oh, whatever it was, 11A, whatever stand we were on. And to his word, he came round and he looked at my work and he said, I like these are nice. He said, can I do an article on you?
Oh,
I said, yes.
Absolutely.
Is the Pope Catholic?
yes.
Yeah.
Totally.
My goodness.
And that made the difference in the world.
He came to the house and I chatted.
Did you find something to say?
No, I was done. But I chatted about my dancing career and one thing and another and how I'd taken up art because of the show going bust, and he seemed to like this story. He said I'd gone from, what did it say? He said I'd gone from the green to canvas, you know, the green being the stage,
Yes,
you know.
yeah.
And anyway, he did a nice article. He did about 3 pages
Lovely.
with about 6 pictures.
Lovely.
And next thing I got a telephone call. Len, can't think of his surname now, from Alpha Marketing in Bishop Stortford, rang me. So I saw your article in this magazine. He said, can I come and see you? I said, yes, I'm at Digswell, you know, the studio. He said, come over to Digswell. He had a look, he sucked his teeth. And said, don't normally use canvases, they're a bugger to send a post and they're awful. He said, but these are nice, I reckon we could sell these. How are you for quantity? I said, how many do you want?
Yeah.
He said, really? I said, oh yeah. I said, I'll keep going. He said, I'm talking to quite a lot, you know. I was doing between 80 and 100 a month.
Oh my good grief.
Small.
They were like the 30 by 30s to start off with, weren't they?
12 by 12s.
Yes, 30 centimetres by
Oh,
30
there's a part.
centimetres.
Yes,
yeah.
absolutely.
Modern.
Yes,
Modern numbers.
fashion,
Money.
Yes.
Yeah, 12 by 12.
Gosh, that's a lot of work.
All the same, people ordered, and I was doing 20 of one. What I did is 6 designs. He printed a little brochure with my name on, and I was in over 250 galleries, and I was earning money.
Good grief.
I don't need to know numbers, but I know you weren't getting a huge amount because obviously there was markup and there
yes,
was
of
markup,
course, yeah.
but you made your money on the bulk, didn't you, on the quantity?
This is what it's about. It's like wholesale. What you get is the price, then you take off the galleries, take and overheads, which I never begrudge. They've got wages and electricity and council tax and tax for you know,
business rates.
you take off Alpha in the middle, who did all the marketing and had men out with the vans
Promoting
and cars
it,
selling, and then you're left with a basic. So I got a basic price. Bulk gave you a wage.
Yeah, because you were getting 40, 50, 60 at a time.
Yeah.
40, 50 at a time for around about 20 quid each.
Yeah.
20, 25 quid each, which were then selling, doubling up and doubling up and doubling up, going for 65, 70 in the galleries.
Yeah.
And they frame them.
Yes, yeah.
So when you put all that and all their costs,
It's true, isn't
which
it?
is what I do now, I am wholesale. But it's bulk.
Yes, yeah.
And that was the making of Jean Picton florals, really. And I used the aqueous dispersant for quite a few years.
You did.
And it worked extremely well. I experimented. I started adding more drawing with a stick and ink. Have you tried that?
Yeah, and I've been there with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a technique that I picked up from college. We had a chap come down from the north, Bradford or somewhere like that, college, gave a dem of a still life with paper, ink, water, hand towels and sponges and anything you could lay. Typical student, you know, didn't buy anything expensive. She went to the toilet and took the hand towels out and said, dip it in the water and put them on.
Yeah.
And we did life studies, big, on ceiling paper. So they were about 6, 7 foot tall.
Yeah.
And detail down to a stick. going in the ink and then getting a little bit of detail, and going in and out of water, so you get happy explosions that you don't, that they're there until you've gone through, and then you get the firm line. So I use a lot of that technique, which came from college. I use the aquadispersant. Then the aquadispersant finished. I mean, I was heartbroken. I rang them up and said, we're not doing it anymore. I thought, you must be joking.
That's my life.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because you don't know where to go from there, do you?
And you're sitting there, and it's okay. We said you're solitary. When you're producing a lot of work, you go over in the morning at 9 o'clock and you don't speak to a soul. And come home after 6, 7 from the studio. And I had a studio across the courtyard. We moved and got a bigger studio, which was fine, and I was very lucky. And that lasted. I had no paint. Lynn suggested golden fluid.
Fluid acrylics, yeah.
Fluid acrylics. You deal with fluid acrylics.
I do the acrylic pouring, which is it's a fluid acrylic, but not in the same way that a golden fluid acrylic is very liquid. The stuff I have has got a viscosity, but it's not as thick as tube paint, so it's kind of somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I must admit, I now have a limited palette. I don't know if you can turn the camera around.
Oh, we can see what's behind you. Oh, yes, I can.
That is my total sum of my paints, bottom and top.
Okay, we'll get a picture of
I'll
that
take
in
a
a second.
photo of
Yeah,
that.
It isn't, considering I'm a professional artist, that's not much paint, colour-wise.
Yeah.
A limited palette, which keeps it clean. There is ink in there, and straight out the bottle, and straight out with the washing up squirter.
Yeah.
I use it washing up bottles, cleaned out, clean water, and away you go.
And you have recently, and I know some of the work that we've got around us does include this, you've recently gone on to using a new way of applying paint, haven't you?
I have indeed. Now, again, Alpha Marketing, he retired and the company shut down. And I had no knowledge at all that there were other companies out. Well, I knew there were other companies out there because they used to talk about them. But I didn't. I wasn't at an age where I'm now in my 80s. I'm 84. And I think, do I really want to research another company and start over again?
Yeah.
And I thought, no, I think I had a few galleries that were still, and I thought I'll just keep in touch with a few galleries and keep it going and just do it for a bit of pin money and enjoy. But again, luck.
Yeah.
One of the chaps that worked for Alpha became redundant because it shut down, went to work for a company called Buckingham Fine Arts. Walked in, he was a salesman, in the car, with the painting, selling, said, haven't you got any Jean Pictons? Oh, they sell.
And got signed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Telephone call, Neil. I'm managing director of Buckingham Market. I hear you do quite nice paintings. Can I come and see? Yes, certainly. Actually, the chap, by the time Alpha finished, I was only doing what we call on paper, watercolour paper.
Yeah.
I was doing golden fluid, golden,
Fluid acrylic, yeah.
Yeah, fluid acrylics. The fluid acrylics on tough watercolour paper.
Yeah.
And they were cutting, cropping them and selling them. They were easy to transport, they were easy to post. And the chap said, oh, she does these watercolours, we can sell them hand over fist. So Neil came over thinking, and I said, I'm quite elderly, He said, that's right, I'm 84. He said, oh, good grief, no, that's okay. And he was expecting the little old lady sitting
Dainty
there
watercolours.
doing little watercolours, you see.
Oh, nice.
What happened is, I had just got a commission to do some big paintings for a big, do you know in London, in the city, there's iconic buildings. One of them, I think they call it the walkie-talkie,
Yes.
Bramwoods.
Yes, that's right.
A company on the 4th floor gave me a commission to do 20 huge paintings, which was a big commission.
Absolutely.
And I had them all out in the studio, big.
And they were big colourful ones, weren't they?
Oh, big colourful ones. came in and he said, "I come to see your watercolours." I said, I do big paintings. He said, "Do you?" And he was being all gentle, you know.
Come and have a look.
Actually, exclamations he made were amazing. I said, "I had no idea." He said, "Where have you been?" I said, "I've been with Alpha Marketing, and they only let me do little ones." He said, "Their loss is our gain." "What's that one?"
Brilliant.
I said, "You can have that one." I said, "You can have that one. You can have that one. You can have that." And he's collecting paintings. in the studio,
Fabulous.
you know.
Yeah, brilliant.
And he said, "Can you do us some?" I said, "Yes." And then it started. And Buckingham Fine Art, up until the pandemic, had been absolutely marvellous. 2018, I went on tour. And I did 24 solo gallery solos with a opening. I go and sit and chat to people, you know, talk.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, don't actually do a den. I just literally want to meet the artist. And I did 24, 25 gallery solos
Gosh.
in 18. 19, I did about 20, then the pandemic hit.
Mm.
And Buckingham changed head of company. It's gone a bit quieter, but as I say, I'm now 88, and it's quite adequate. This is quite adequate. And in the meantime, none of you, "Oh, you have to copy." They say, "Do whatever you want."
Lovely.
Oh, consequently,
Yeah.
what have I done? I've started doing abstracts. I don't know if you can come in closer
Let's
on
just
those.
lift it up a little bit.
That's it.
The fluid acrylics now, aren't you? You're using graffiti paint.
Yes, what I'm now using is, I'll just go over here and get some and give it a shake. I've gone all Banksy.
Stick yourself back down so you can see me. So
I've
the
gone all
camera's-
Banksy. And now, where's the camera?
Just,
This
yeah.
one.
So you're using graffiti spray paints.
Graffiti spray paint. And I love it. I have a working mask that I wear and open the doors and away I go. And what I do is, I do a layer of splattering and paint and then I push back with the spray.
Yeah.
Then I do some more paint and then I push back and then I do some more paint and I push back.
With a plain
Yep.
canvas.
Yeah, then I take my water and I take my golden fluid and I start to, I also use the fluorescent golden. I start to put a punctuation here and there and then I work from one mark. It's kind of a mark. I make a mark in colour. And then from that mark, I then build up against it any other colours I feel might be suitable. And then I splatter,
Okay.
Jackson Pollock style,
Yep.
direct out of my golden fluid container. Could you reach for it?
We'll take some pictures. We'll get some shots of that in a second.
Okay, yeah, just a straight
We'll drop
bottle.
it
If you flick with the wrist at the right
Yeah.
angle,
Yeah.
you can get varying values of
Yeah.
splatters.
So you use the spray to knock it back, and by that you
What I
spray
say
it.
is, yeah, then when it's splattered all over the place, I then take a colour of spray, give it a good old shake, and stand back and gently lose some of all the random.
So
that I
you leave a sort of
really-
semi-transparent layer.
I leave a transparent layer, but I also leave some colour in the middle.
Yeah.
And then I gradually keep building that up and building that up and building that up until the painting says to me, "I'm done."
Yeah.
And then I
Fabulous.
take the final, sometimes I do it with ink, sometimes I do it with white paint, sometimes I do it with colour paint or with black. And I do the drawn straight lines, the drawn lines and ink lines to give it substance. But it's always working against the composition of the colour.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm doing really, it's a pretty simple concept. That's why I haven't got things in front of me. Because if I did, what I do is I start copying them.
Yes, rather than just going with the flow and the feel of the moment.
And what
Well,
the
the
paint
canvas
demands.
sort of works with you.
Yes.
I know it sounds silly.
No, it doesn't.
A white
think-
canvas looks
think
awful to me.
They paint themselves sometimes.
Well, I
because you
think
know-
there's a turning point.
Yes,
I find that up to a point, it's not very comfortable.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
you think, this is not working.
I call that it's going in the bin stage, and you need to work past that.
That sounds absolutely spot on. And we all come to that middle stage where it's uncomfortable.
That's right.
And I think, I've gone too far. I pick up a bit of spray, push a little bit that way, push it. I stand back and I'm very, very careful. If you go vroom,
Yes.
you obliterate everything.
Yes.
You've got to stand back and actually,
Just skim it.
and very occasionally I actually mask with my hand. I don't even mask with cardboard because I'm so far back anyway,
Yeah.
you know. And you just ghost it. And it knocks out, it's like editing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm editing with spray paint.
Yeah.
So it kind of
On
becomes
the
like it's
acrylic
misted,
paint.
isn't it? So you can see through it, but it's misty.
Yeah, well you've got stuff behind.
Yeah.
And look at that, there's all going behind, you see.
Yeah.
You don't realise until you stand back. And then, if it goes too far, you can almost block the whole thing out if you want.
Yeah.
And then still put another
Another layer in.
on top.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I try constantly to come up with what I call depth. And that's, for me, I have some simple little rules that when I'm teaching or doing demonstrations, and it's a bit jokey, but it works. And I make people, if I'm running a class, repetitive classes, I say, when you finished a piece, just tick off, has it got light and dark? Has it got lost and found?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Has it got complementary?
Yeah.
There's very little else you could really, if it's got lost and found, if it's got light and dark and light, and it's got complementary, and it's got depth, a painting will work. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be an old, well, I've done old boots.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
You can, it will work, but you've got to stand back and criticise yourself at the end of it to say, and even now after all this experience, and it's been 20 years now that I've been painting. It must be 20 years,
Yeah.
or 18 years. Coming on for 19 years, which is not bad, is it? No, it is 20 because it was 60. I was 68.
When you're
It
88
came
now.
out of
Yeah.
yes, time flies when you're having fun. So that is what I do with my art.
And they're now available, so if people want to have a look at more of your art, it's now on the Buckingham website.
Yes, Buckingham Fine Art are a lovely company. They have a list of about 40 artists, of which they go around a couple of hundred galleries. So I'm in and out about 100 galleries on and off.
Yeah.
And but you can look at my page in Buckingham Fine Arts
Okie dokie.
catalogue, as it were. And the Buckingham is in Milton Keynes. So if you typed in Buckingham Fine Art,
You'd
Milton
find
Keynes, up it comes, and it's a list of artists. Look for their list of artists, press Jean Picton, and very current things will be there, only what was painted last week.
Okay.
They come and collect from you regularly, don't
They
they?
come to collect, they're wonderful. They sent me on a cruise demonstrating.
Oh,
Fabulous.
how lovely.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I was 85. They sent me on a cruise demonstrating.
Fabulous. Yeah. Why not?
Actually, it was quite a success because of the way I dress, and I'm a bit sort of retro and gothy and everything, and I wear the Doc Martens, and I took frilly skirts and frilly dresses and Doc Martens to match, and everybody was agog of what colour Doc Martens
What
I
you
was
were
going
gonna
to
have
wear
next.
each day. Yeah. In fact, I actually painted some Doc Martens with flowers for 2 customers that bought whole pile of paintings.
But I've stopped. I think I just need to restart.
Oh, you stopped.
Oh, sorry.
See, let's look at. Is it doing anything? No, start again. There we go. There we
That's
go.
it.
That's it. So,
So I've actually painted some Doc Martens with flowers for them.
yeah.
My Doc Martens.
Oh, lovely.
While I was on the cruise.
Yeah.
And gave them to him as a token of my thanks because they did paintings. A lot of
Oh,
paintings.
fabulous. Well, I mean, I knew Jean before, and I knew how fabulous she was. Have you enjoyed meeting Jean?
Well, I've sat there agog. Yeah, seriously.
Oh, don't have you a gog.
It was. It was.
Make me very uncomfortable.
I got to.
Do you know what I'd like to say to anybody that is watching who is thinking about painting and thinking about doing it and thinking they're too old? I didn't start really. I mean, I started mid 60s,
Yeah.
early mid 60s, and I've had 20 years. You don't have to have a career, but I tell you what. When I was doing my degree, and when I did my degree when I didn't have a studio. I worked in a spare bedroom, and I used to get up in the morning to go through to the bathroom and stop and look at what I'd done the night before, go in, and the next thing I hear would be my husband saying, crying downstairs saying, "Jean, are you coming down? It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon." I said, "I'll come down in a minute." I didn't have a nightie that wasn't covered in paint. And I tell you, the joy of that when you're a grandma. Oh, needless to say, my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren love my paintings. In fact, I spend quite a bit of time doing paintings for them and doing paintings with the kids.
Well, I've just ordered one. I've just requested one of these.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Oh, perfect. Oh, it's been
Oh,
such
by the
a
way,
pleasure
I'm
to
not
meet
in the
you.
hundreds of thousands and thousands. I'm down below. I'm in the lower. You know, nothing's exorbitant.
Well,
I thought I'd just mention.
Very,
a wealth
very.
of knowledge.
Yes,
Yeah.
and I think your work is well worth what it is up for sale for.
Yeah.
But like you say, it's affordable.
Yes. Yeah. So, because you never know, you see an artist and they're very flippant, and their work goes for £2,000 and £3,000, and you say, "Oh, flipping heck," you know. Though it's nice to get that money, but I mean, you have to be practical.
Yes, and you'd rather sell it and have the enjoyment of creating it
Absolutely.
than all those piled up
Well,
underneath the tables.
as I
Who
said,
wants that?
As I go back to when I left university, and I said I don't want to pile all my paintings under the bed like the Princess and the Pea. You know, it's pointless.
Yeah, I agree.
I think doing a lot of paintings is pointless. I think it's nice just to do a few and shift them.
Yes.
We
Yes.
found we're quite addicted to painting though, so we've got more paintings than we need because we can't stop ourselves.
You have to get rid of them.
We try really hard, Jean.
I would like one day, but I couldn't work it out, how many I've given away. That comes to a point when you're producing as much as I was producing.
Yes.
You get quite a lot of rejects and things. Or if anybody came to the studio, you've got an overflow, stock. Yeah. But no, it's lovely. It's I enjoy doing it. Do you know what? I'm still bowled over the fact that somebody is willing, no matter how little, to pay money and put something I have created on their wall.
Yes.
Are you?
It's an honour, isn't it, actually?
It is.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you is
Thank you
my
for having
major
me, as
thing
they
I
say.
can say. Yes, thank you so much for sharing your life with us. And I've known you for 20 odd years and I just love knowing you. You're just a really nice person to be around.
Thank you very, very much, and I hope to hang around a bit longer.
Well,
I
so do
hope
I.
so. You're great fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for making us so welcome.
Yes, you're very welcome. Yes,
I
and
loved it.
Yeah, but perhaps we ought to have a painting spree one day.
Yeah,
You can spray.
That'd be fun.
that'd be
wouldn't
fun.
it? Yeah.
We'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Well, I've said to you I'm coming on, we're going to do some acrylic pouring and I'm going to get the spray paint, Jean's going to get the pouring
Oh,
paints.
yes, absolutely.
You come
Mind
on.
you,
Yeah.
you do the
Yeah.
you do the real goth stuff, don't
Oh,
you?
yeah, I love all that. Oh, yes, I love all that.
But you don't dress goth.
I do when I go to events. I like to go to steampunk events. Yes, I do.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, with the hats.
Oh
and
yes,
that. Oh,
and the
I love-
veil and the goggles on the hat.
I love
and-
it. Yes, it's
Yes,
lovely, isn't
yeah,
it? Yeah.
yeah. Do you get to do that?
No, I've not done the steampunk. What happened was I hit my 80th birthday and I had a party for my 80th birthday with up in Bedford, up in Sandy. And I had a big art class and they all came. There was about 100 people turned up. And I had an afternoon tea at Mockerhanger House.
Oh, very nice.
And a jazz band and a dance in the afternoon. And I said, come in 50s.
Oh yeah, lovely.
So I bought a frilly petticoat and a 50s dress. Liked wearing it, so since I've been 80, I've been in frillies.
Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
Isn't it just?
They're only cheap off eBay.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
You look lovely.
Oh,
You look lovely. I want to be like you when I'm 88. I do.
I'd quite like to be like you when I'm 58.
I was going to say, you don't really... Age is a strange thing. I get
Yes.
very bewildered at the fact that inside you're still 18.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Oh, definitely,
Yes.
yes.
You're still
Yeah.
18 inside, no matter
Yeah.
what age.
Yeah.
That's very true, actually, isn't it? My mum used to say that as well.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to the ever youthful and ever beautiful Jean Picton. Thank you so much for your generosity, your time and your amazing life story. And we hope you've enjoyed sharing Jean's life story with us, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.
Sorry, darling. Sorry.
You've got to plug me in again.
Oh, I don't know. Let's see.
Battery? Memory card?
I'm worn your batteries out.
Yeah, you
That's
do wear my
battery.
batteries
Yeah,
out.
it's battery. Yeah, it's alright. It's okay. I can put a new battery in.
Oh, she's all in. And there's a lady that's occupied. What's the...
Remembered Billy Cotton, when he came on TV, used to go, wakey, wakey,
Wakey, wakey. You're
No,
wakey.
no, I couldn't remember.
You're right.
Ah.
I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts.
Coconuts.
Alan Breeze
My
was
gran-
his singer. Do you remember Alan Breeze, the singer?
No, my grandmother used to love him, you see, so
Yeah.
I used to sit there on a Saturday night and watch
I
him on
mean-
telly with my nan.
I mended Alan Breeze's trousers.
Also, steady. Oh.
He came off stage and he split his trousers, right, you know, like the cotton
Yeah.
goes. And I said, I'll mend them for you. And I sat there and mended them. And Jane came into the dressing room, and the other girl that was in the act, the band boys had cottoned on, and they got her to do all of their washing for them. And the dressing room was like kung fu laundry. And all the boys' white shirts were all draped all around our dressing room. And she said, what the hell's going on? She said, I'm getting washing for the boys. She said, washing, take the washing down. She said, what are you doing? She said, I'm sewing Alan Breeze's trousers.
Careful, don't lean back on it.
Don't you think that's funny?
Yes.
Like, you haven't had to ask many questions.
I knew all we'd have to say was hello Jean and it would be fine.